remember how you met your partner? I remember how I met mine. It was a blind date. Yes, a blind date. For those of you who don't know what that is, it is when third parties, like mothers of the soon-to-be pair, play matchmaker and set their kids up on a date. All I remember, I was at work and I received a call. It was quite covert, actually. I was told to meet my potential match at a restaurant on a certain date at a certain time, and the rest is, well, history. I understand this sort of matchmaking is quite standard in several cultures. Matchmakers have been considered the middlemen by producing potential candidates for centuries. Historically, in many cultures, parents would request the assistance of a matchmaker in finding a suitable spouse for their child. The job of the matchmaker was important because dating and free choice of marriage partner was not allowed. The only way for young people to marry was by an arranged marriage. For centuries, the matchmaker's job was to check the ethnic identity and compatibility of the proposed couple. The matchmaker was generally paid an agreed-upon fee or percentage of the dowry. Even as far back as in the 1700s, barely a decade after the invention of the modern newspaper, the first matrimonial service was created. These services ran ads on behalf of single men and single women who were desperate to find a good husband or wife. At the time, being single past 21 carried with it a deep stigma, and turning to a matrimonial service for either sex was seen as an act of desperation. Still, many matches resulted from these services, and many members of the 18th century society found love this way, even if it was something rarely talked about during the time. In the Jewish religion, matchmaking practices are still very much alive. They call them the shadchan. A shadchan can also be referred to as anyone who introduces two single Jews to one another with the hope that they will form a couple. In Singapore, they offer a combination of professional counsel and a dating system technology. Like many commercial dating services, the role of the matchmaker has become somewhat institutionalized. Every citizen in Singapore has access to some sort of matchmaking services that were once reserved for the upper classes. In the history of love and marriage, it is fair to say that most of the world's past relationships were in some form matched. Whether it be your parents, your church, or your peers at college, we have been socially guided down a certain relationship path. When the boy meets the right girl for him, we say the couple makes sense, meaning their families, their spiritual beliefs, their financial background, and educational levels are somewhat equal. The history of matchmaking continues to be rewritten as we modern matchmakers continue the honored tradition. As for my blind date, it wasn't the first time I had been on one, but it was the first time it was successful. I always thought I could do this on my own. I guess I was wrong. The thing is, before dating apps like eHarmony, Plenty of Fish, Match, Tinder, or even the infamous Ashley Madison, there has been some sort of matchmaking going on. With things like social media, e-commerce, and the sharing economy, I think we forgot what success looked like before the internet. That's what this podcast is about. It's a bit history, a bit nostalgia, and for some, perhaps a bit of a revelation. I know you will enjoy it. So let's look at a success story on success before the internet. There was success before the internet, you know. We just forgot. Let's get started. Episode 4, Dating. Welcome to the show. I want to thank you for listening. This episode shapes up to be a good one. I never really thought of it, but the world as we know it could be thought of as pre-internet and post-internet. Sounds a bit apocalyptic. Dating apps or platforms in their infancy were no more than a website that you sign up for and message people on. It didn't employ any algorithms or scientific analysis to help you find the perfect match. It was more of a bulletin board for singles. But we'll see that using science to match potential mates didn't start with the internet. Now, using a dating app can be convenient and even a bit exciting, but man, are there some horror stories out there. From awkward and scary experiences to being duped out of hundreds of thousands of dollars are not uncommon. Have you ever seen the Netflix documentary, The Tinder Swindler? It's intense. It's about an Israeli con man that poses as the heir to a huge diamond fortune and lures girls in with a prefabricated lavish lifestyle. Once he gets them reeled in, he extorts money from them under the guise that he's being targeted by his enemies and needs to remain quote-unquote untraceable. He gets them to send him hundreds of thousands of dollars that he promised to pay back and then some, which he never does. It's truly amazing to watch. The moral I got is if it's too good to be true, it probably is. I recommend you watch it. There is a twist that I won't tell you about. It's really good. Before I get started, remember to go to Apple Podcasts, give the show a 5-star rating, and share the podcast with anyone who you think would enjoy it. If you want to support the show, go to successbeforetheinternet.com and click on the link Support SBTI on TipJar. You can also tip regularly if you come back often. I'm sure you will. Okay, I will break down this episode into 3 parts. Dating before services, dating services pre-internet, and then dating services post-internet. For those of you who wish to explore more, I will leave links in the show notes. Let us begin. Dating before services. All these methods still exist today in some form. Think of what I'm talking about as cumulative. The bar or the club, or as I like to say, the club. I never did much of this. My wife used to make fun of me when we were dating. Apparently, I would fall asleep at the club where we were on a date. I was going to school, working, and trying to have a social life. So I wasn't sleeping much. I also did not know at the time I was going to be experiencing a health issue that would rear its ugly head some years later. I digress. You would basically go to a bar or club with a bunch of friends and hope to chat up someone you could potentially date. It was all about getting that elusive phone number. Before mobile and smartphones, you had better have access to a pen and some paper, or your memory better not be dulled by the alcohol you were consuming to get the nerve to ask them in the first place. I was pretty shy during that stage, so I didn't go this route much. I did play in a band, so that's how I spent most of my time in bars. Church. This is for all the lifters that have been at a social gathering for the church you attend. You had several opportunities to not only meet someone you liked, but their family as well. Through friends. We have all had that quote-unquote friend who knows someone perfect for you and would like to play matchmaker. Usually it's a double date. It's set up in some kind of social gathering like a party or a meetup at a bar or restaurant or club where you two could meet, either accidentally or on purpose. I've experienced a few of these. Oh, but that was so long ago. Okay, let's start talking about some dating services that predated the internet. Pre-internet dating services. It appears that one of the uses of mainframe computers from the late 1950s and on was trying to match people through analyzing compatibilities. So even though the internet as we know it wasn't developed yet, we still use computer technology to do the number crunching or compatibility crunching. There is a lot of information here. I will handpick some highlights and expand on them. I'll leave the rest in the show notes, so if you feel inclined to research a little more, you can. Let's start by going back to 1959. The Happy Family Planning Service launches. It was started by Jim Harvey and Phil Filer as a class project at Stanford. They used a questionnaire and an IBM 650 to match 49 men and 49 women. They were quoted as saying it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. They didn't take it too seriously. Just to let you know, it took 6 hours of computational time on the IBM 650 to process the questionnaires. Today, that would be like 2 milliseconds. The questions were very simple too, like, do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert? Or are you affectionate or unaffectionate? Real riveting stuff here. The way it works is the best matches were made first, and then subsequent matches were made by the remaining pool of candidates. One match it made was a Stanford freshman with a 40-something divorcee with kids. Was it accurate? Maybe. Was the first of its kind? Definitely. They've received an A on the project, so I would say it was a success. Okay, let's fast forward to the 1960s and talk about Operation Match. The service was started in 1965 and was part of a company called Compatibility Research Incorporated. It was started by Jeff Tarr and Von Morrill at Harvard with help from Douglas H. Ginsburg, then a student at Cornell. They used a questionnaire and an IBM 1401 to match students. There was a $3 fee for submitting a questionnaire. By the fall of 1965, 6 months after the launch, some 90,000 Operation Match questionnaires had been received, amounting to $270,000 in gross profits. That's about $2.6 million in today's dollars. Believe it or not, in the 1960s, there was no stigma about computer-assisted matching. The questionnaire was geared to young college students seeking a date, not a marriage partner. Questions included, do you believe in a God who answers prayers? And is extensive sexual activity in preparation for marriage just part of growing up? Whoa, risque questions. The questionnaires were transferred to punch cards and processed on an IBM 7090 computer at the Avco Service Bureau in Wilmington, Massachusetts. A week or two later, the user received an IBM 1401 printout in the mail listing the names and telephone numbers of their matches. Eventually, the founders formed a company named Compatibility Research Incorporated and rolled out the service in several cities. It looks like matchmaking is starting to become commercialized. Let's go forward another decade to the 1970s, where bell-bottoms and cork shoes ruled the decade. I'm just kidding. They were only part of the decade. There was also disco and punk and the like. Let's talk about the Great Expectations dating service. In 1976, Great Expectations is founded. You know, the one Mad TV made fun of as lowered expectations in the 1990s? It was the first of its kind video dating service. The service achieved some notoriety, but it never overcame stigma. There were also other video dating services like Teledate and Introvision, but I can't seem to find anything about them online. Starting in February 1976, people across Los Angeles drove to a windowless, one-room office on the 18th floor of a building in Century City. This would eventually become a franchise of Great Expectations. There, in a room crammed with 2 TVs, a set of chairs for interviewing, and a stack of cassette tapes, they stepped into the future of dating. The company's founder, a 26-year-old named Jeff Ullman, ushered members over to a video camera where he recorded a 3-minute conversation introducing each person to the world. Ullman cycled through questions like, do you work hard? What makes you angry? What really motivates you? What are you looking for in a man-woman? Then he added each videotape to the Great Expectations library and let members peruse the rest of the tapes. Appended to each was a 1-page resume outlining the person's height, location, job, and so on, so that members could filter out candidates before popping in a tape. This was videotape dating, or video dating for short. Great Expectations members were an eclectic set. Among other things, members announced in their videos that they were seeking out someone who believes in 85% of women's lib, or someone who craved an innocuous transcendental experience, but still, it's a mouthful, or who lived the combined lifestyles of Henry II, Sir Thomas More, Oliver Wendell Holmes, and Monsignor Rick. Wow. Another declared that all he really wanted was to stare into a woman's eyes, get drunk with friends, and have high times. Okay, interesting. This would be said to be the future inspiration for dating apps like Tinder, Bumble, and Lolly. Let's look at one more pre-internet dating service from my country, Canada. It was called Telepersonals, and it was started in 1987. Telepersonals was created as a separate telephone dating system in Toronto, Canada, from an earlier Personals dating section of a telephone classified business. As part of an advertising program, a selection of ads appeared on the back pages of Now magazine. For non-Canadians, this is the Canadian equivalent of the Village Voice. There were services in different cities around the Toronto area that were also launched. Through its evolution, it added a gay option. The gay section became its own branded service. At the very beginning of the 2000s, Telepersonals launches online and is rebranded as Lava Life, also Canadian, with sections for cities across the United States and Canada. Ultimately, that service would evolve into the online dating site, which grew to 600 employees and over $100 million in revenue with more than 2 million users. It was founded by Bruce Cruxon, and it's said that he arguably created the first technology-based social network in the world. Cruxon and his co-founders sold Lava Life in 2004 for $180 million, and he left the company in 2006. Crazy stuff, and even from a Canadian. I remember Telepersonals. They used to advertise late night on TV when I was younger. What a trip. Pre-internet dating service honorable mentions. Here are some honorable mentions that were either very similar to the four services I described above, or I couldn't gather much information about them. Here goes. 1963. Ed Lewis at Iowa State University uses a questionnaire and an IBM computer to, quote-unquote, optimize the meeting potential at dances. 1964. St. James Computer Dating Service, later to become Compat, launches. Joan Ball started the first commercially run computer-generated matchmaking company. The first set of matchups was run in 1964. 1965. Eros, or Contact Incorporated, launches, started by David Duan at MIT. He used a dating questionnaire and a Honeywell 200. In one distribution of questionnaires, he drew 11,000 responses at $4 each, or $44,000 in gross profits, about $250,000 in 2014 dollars. 1968. Datamate launches. Questionnaire-based matching service started at MIT. Early 70s. Phase 2 was founded. A computer dating company started by James Schurer. 1974. Cherry Blossoms. A mail-order bride catalog launches. Slater calls Cherry Blossoms one of the oldest mail-order bride agencies, started by John Broussard. 1980s. Misogynist Roses. Pink Chat Rooms launches. Chat rooms for dating using the Minitel network, started by Marc Simonci in France. In 1982, Jens Jurgen founded Travel Companion Exchange, the first travel partner matching service. 1986, Matchmaker Electronic Pen Pal Network launches, a bulletin board system for romance started by John Bode and Scott Smith. Matchmaker grew to 14 local BBSs throughout the U.S. Eventually, people lost interest as BBSs lost out to the World Wide Web, and Matchmaker was superseded by Matchmaker.com. This would be a good time to discuss a podcast that I listened to called Tech Can't Save Us. They actually had a really, really good episode on BBSs and how they were kind of like the internet before the internet. I suggest you go and watch it, or not watch it. I suggest you listen to it. It's really good. It's a great podcast. I hope you enjoyed the stories I've talked about pre-internet dating services. It looks like it started with computers and questionnaires and then evolved into video and voicemail of potential matches. We will see when the internet gets involved how it all comes together. Let's forge on. The internet and beyond, dating services and apps. You will notice that the history of post-internet services and apps are better documented, so I have more information at my disposal. In 1994, Kiss.com is launched. It was the first online dating site of its kind. Founded by Terence Lee Zaire, Kiss became the first picture-personal site to reach 1 million registered members and saw 400% revenue growth in 1999. In 2001, Kiss.com merged with UK dating company udate.com in a deal worth approximately $18 million in common stock and cash. After the acquisition, Lee sat on the board of directors as the majority stockholder for the conglomerate until 2003. When IAC Interactive Corp acquired udate Kiss and merged them to form what is now Match.com in a deal worth approximately $150 million. Kiss.com has since dissolved as part of IAC's personal business, which includes Match.com and Chemistry.com. Lee currently holds a position on the board of directors for the internet company eVentures.com and is an advisor for many other startup businesses. I couldn't find much on Kiss.com, the dating service. You can find a lot online about Kiss, the rock band. The only thing I really found about Kiss.com, the dating service, was that it started around the time of Match.com. Let's jump to 1995 and look at Match.com. Match's history goes all the way back to the early 90s. Gary Kremen, an American engineer and entrepreneur, and Peng Sin Ong founded the company Internet Matchmaking Electric Classifieds, Incorporated in 1993. Match was its first flagship property. Kremen told Wired that the idea came to me in the shower. I thought it would be really interesting to use the internet for relationships and to do it right. Ong helped with the design aspect while Simon Glinsky helped with the business plan and marketing. They wanted to create a subscription-based model, which most dating sites use today, and have a diverse group of people for the initial trials, including women, tech leaders, and those from the gay and lesbian community. Fran Meyer, a well-known entrepreneur and brand builder, joined the team in late 1994 to develop a strategy for making the platform female-friendly. She believed that if they built a dating site with women in mind, then the men would follow, and she was right. A provider of business and consumer services named Ascendant bought Match in 1998, and IAC bought it from them a year later. Now, IAC is a leading New York-based media and internet company that owns more than 150 brands in 100 countries. By November 2004, over 42 million people had signed up for Match, and more than 50 million people across the globe were using the service. So Guinness World Records named Match the largest dating site in the world. Kiss.com and Match.com really got a boost from movies. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that in 1998, internet dating got a cultural boost with the release of the movie You've Got Mail. The movie, which reunited Sleepless in Seattle's Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, it focused on two business rivals who hated each other in person but fell in love over the web. Though the movie didn't focus on internet dating directly, it put meeting someone on the web in a positive light and showcased the web as a tool for bringing people together, even those who don't like each other in the physical world. The year 2000 and eHarmony. Unfortunately, this story sounds a little less like SiliconValley.com and more Business 101, but I will tell it nonetheless. eHarmony was founded by Neil Clark Warren, a clinical psychologist, with his son-in-law, Greg Forgach. Warren and Forgach created Neil Clark Warren and Associates, a seminar company, in 1995. The company eventually became the dating website eHarmony. During its initial 4 years, the website was developed by Tech Empower. The service was financed with a $3 million investment from Fayez Seraphim and Company and individual investors. eHarmony was launched in 2000, making it the first algorithm-based dating site. This to me is foreshadowing for what is to come. Between 2000 and 2010, about 33 million members used the service. As of 2008, about 15,000 people were taking the eHarmony questionnaire each day. Harris Interactive said that in 2010, that after finding a match on eHarmony, an average of 542 eHarmony members in the United States marry every day. Wow. Prospective members complete a proprietary questionnaire about their characteristics, beliefs, values, emotional health, and skills. Matching algorithms, which the company believes match people's core traits and values to replicate the traits of happy couples, use these answers to match members with users the company believes will be compatible. The software technology also evaluates users' behavioral data, such as average time spent on the site. Balkwalder says the compatibility system rests a lot on commonality, for their belief is that opposites attract, then they attack. Ooh, that sounds ominous. Starting in January 2017, eHarmony users could see why they are considered compatible with a feature called The Two of You Together. They will be able to see the matches who score at an advanced level of compatibility, but also why. eHarmony has been profitable since 2004. In 2009, eHarmony's cumulative revenue exceeded $1 billion, while their annual revenue was about $250 million. As of 2012, eHarmony had 14% of the U.S. dating services market. In 2017, it was reported that eHarmony had about 750,000 paid subscribers and 10 million active users, which was about the same as it had been in 2012. Warren left the company again in July 2016. In 2016, eHarmony announced that questionnaires would now be optional for users. By 2017, the questionnaire consisted of 150 questions, down from 450 questions. In 2018, German mass media company ProSiebenSat.1 Media purchased eHarmony via their Newcom e-commerce division, a joint venture of ProSiebenSat and the private equity firm General Atlantic. When it began, eHarmony did not offer same-sex matches. However, from 2009 through 2019, the company provided a service through a separate platform called Compatible Partners. Warren said that he had done extensive research on heterosexual marriage, but did not know enough about homosexual relationships to do same-sex matchmaking, which he said calls for some very careful thinking, very careful research. He also said that eHarmony promotes heterosexual marriage, adding that, at the time, same-sex marriage was illegal in most places, saying, "We don't really want to participate in something that's illegal." In another interview, Warren went into more detail on his own views, noting that cities like San Francisco, Chicago, or New York, they could shut eHarmony down so fast. We don't want to make enemies out of them. But at the same time, I take a real strong stand against same-sex marriage anywhere that I can comment on it. Okay? As of 2013, about 200,000 people had registered with compatibility partners. Michelle Garcia, writing in the LGBT interest magazine, The Advocate, also said that, like eHarmony, Compatible Partners attracts high-quality customers. According to Garcia, because of the price tag and the emphasis on long-term relationships, Compatible Partners users are seen as quite desirable. In 2021, eHarmony released an advertisement that included a same-sex couple, emphasizing the platform's diverse user base. Nevertheless, certain conservative groups expressed criticism, suggesting the platform deviated from its Christian roots. eHarmony then started matching paying members with non-paying members. After approval by the questionnaire, eHarmony begins to match members regardless of subscription status. A members list of matches does not indicate which members are paying or non-paying, so users may not be able to communicate with all of their matches. A 2010 article published by the Harvard Business Review attributed the success of eHarmony's system to their large membership base, their efforts to exclude people who are not serious about dating, and their membership fees being more expensive than the fees for other dating websites. The author hypothesizes that since eHarmony's questionnaire and high cost of membership deter people who are interested in casual dating, eHarmony's members are more likely to be interested in a long-term relationship. A 2012 analysis of dating websites by Scientific American stated that eHarmony, along with other algorithm-based dating services, have not yet provided members of the scientific community with information about their matching algorithm, which could be used to vet their claims about their algorithms being scientifically based. This makes sense. If you say you are scientifically based, but don't let the scientific community corroborate your claim, what does that say? Still a very popular site nonetheless. Let's look at some apps now. I will go chronologically. We have Grindr. Grindr was launched as an iOS mobile app on March 25th, 2009 by tech entrepreneur Joel Simkai in Los Angeles, California. The free version displayed 100 profiles of nearby men, while a premium version, which contained no advertising and broadened the dating pool to 200 men. It was one of the first geosocial apps for gay men when it launched in March 2009 and has since become the largest and most popular gay mobile app in the world. It is available on iOS and Android devices in both free and premium versions, the latter called Grindr Extra and Grindr Unlimited. As of September 2023, Grindr has approximately 13.5 million monthly active users. The app allows users to create a personal profile and use their GPS position to place them on a cascade where they can browse other profiles sorted by distance and be viewed by nearby and faraway users depending on one's filter settings. Selecting a profile photo in the grid view will display that user's full profile and photos, as well as an option to chat, send a tap, send pictures, video call, and share one's precise location. I could almost do a separate show on Grindr and its related dating apps, but this podcast is called Success Before the Internet. However, it is amazing how quickly this app took off. To show you, by August 2009, there were 200,000 total users in Grindr's network. By March 2010, there were 500,000, and by June 2012, Grindr announced that it had officially hit 4 million registered users in 192 countries across the globe. Helping the app get popular was the fact that it was available for lots of platforms. It started with Apple iOS, and then moved to Android. It even had a BlackBerry version. Later on in its development, about 2019, it also had a desktop version called Grindr Web, a free desktop version of the app built for users who prefer to chat from their computer or laptop. Designed for quick and discreet chat while at the office, it employs a generic email interface and mimics computer file folders in place of user profiles. This service has since been made a feature of the paid version, Grindr Unlimited. This reminds me of the Boss Key. Remember those? Back when you were playing video games back in the day? From the desktop, right? That quickly allowed you to switch your computer screen to something work-related like a spreadsheet so you would not get caught playing games at work by the boss. On to one more post-internet dating app, Tinder. Tinder is an online dating and geosocial networking application launched in 2012. On Tinder, users swipe right to like or swipe left to dislike other users' profiles, which include their photos, a short bio, and some of their interests. Tinder uses a double opt-in system, also called matching, where two users must like each other before they can exchange messages. Here's a very brief history. In January 2012, Sean Rad was hired as the general manager of Cardify, a credit card loyalty app launched by Hatch Labs. During a hackathon in its first month, he presented the idea for a dating app called Matchbox. Rad and Joe Munoz built the prototype for Matchbox and presented the app on February 16, 2012. In March, co-founder Jonathan Badin, front-end operator and later Tinder's CSO, and Chris Golzinski, designer and later Tinder's CCO, joined Cardify. In May, while Carterfy was going through Apple's App Store approval process, the team focused on Matchbox. During the same period, Alexa Mateen, Justin's sister, and her friend Whitney Wolf Hurd were hired as Carterfy sales reps. In August 2012, Carterfy was abandoned. Matchbox was renamed Tinder, and co-founder Justin Mateen, marketer and later Tinder's CMO, joined the company. Sounds very similar to Mark Zuckerberg and how Facebook was developed. I would recommend you go back to my earlier podcast on robber barons to find out more about that. However, what happened here happened without a bunch of litigation, unlike the Facebook story. Tinder's selection function, which was initially click-based, evolved into the company's swipe feature. The feature was established when Rad and Badin, interested in gamification, modeled the feature on a deck of cards. Badin then streamlined the action after a trial on a bathroom mirror. Tinder has been credited with popularizing the swipe feature many companies now use, like Grindr. Tinder experienced fast growth. By October 2014, Tinder users completed over 1 billion swipes per day, producing about 12 million matches per day. By then, Tinder's average user generally spent about 90 minutes a day on the app. In 2016, Tinder was the most popular dating app in the United States, holding a 25.6% market share of monthly users. On the company's third quarter earnings call, Match Group CEO Greg Blatt described the popular dating app Tinder as a rocket and the future of business. In 2022, Tinder had 10.9 million subscribers and 75 million monthly active users. As of 2021, Tinder had recorded more than 65 billion searches worldwide. Here are some honorable mentions. 1997, JDate launches a dating service targeted at Jewish singles. In 1999, Gaydar launches. It was founded in 1999 by London-based South Africans Gary Fish and his partner Harry Badenhorst. The website was once the world's most popular gay online dating site, and it grew into a portfolio of websites and an award-winning radio station. 2001, Christian Mingle launches a dating service for Christian singles. 2003, Plenty of Fish launches. 2004, OkCupid launches. 2015, Match Group, which we talked about already earlier in this podcast, which owns and operates several online dating websites, including OkCupid, Tinder, Plenty of Fish, and Match.com, goes public. Actually, there are a lot to mention in the post-internet space, so it's best to check out the show notes. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Wow, that was a good rundown of dating services, websites, and apps spanning over 60 years. All right. That's all for this episode of Success Before the Internet. I hope you found it enjoyable, informative, and entertaining. Thank you for tuning in. It means a lot. You can find us on any of the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, etc., or wherever you get your podcasts. I have now set up a tip jar, so if you tune in regularly, you can go to successbeforetheinternet.com and click the Support SBTI on Tip Jar link. If you're not able to, that's okay. Just leave a 5-star review of the show. It really goes a long way in getting the show noticed. Also, please share your social media platforms to help get the word out. If you tip, I will mention on my next episode. Why? Because you guys are beautiful people. Thanks a bunch. You can also find us on Facebook, or you can go to our website, successbeforetheinternet.com, to get all our episodes streaming there. You can also email me at successbeforetheinternet@gmail.com with any comments about the show. I would love suggestions for future episodes. You'll get a shout out if I use your suggestion for a show topic. All the music in the show is from my band Sideshow. Our music can be found on SoundCloud under the name Sideshow Band 72. So until next time, I'm Dan Vespa. And remember, there was success before the internet. We just forgot.